cycle we'll discuss more about that. Something else I'd like to put on the table is the role of the media. At the moment, we have World Cup, and kuna games hatuja watch, watu wa KBC, and mnasema KBC mekula fair, all right, which I think it's true. But I mean, I'm sure you know that it's KBC is the national broadcaster. They have, we pay taxes so that they can to just recognize the Deputy Secretary, Judicial Committee on Elections, who's joined us, Honorable Edwin Mulochi, karibu sana. Our audience online are also still with us, and we want to thank them. And so what we're going to do now is just very quickly have this, while they are still here, quickly open this to a very short plenary, just for 5 minutes, right? So want to just open this up and pick just 3 questions or comments. Then we proceed because of time. Please, if you'll understand. Reactions, questions from the plenary, please, very quickly. I see 1 there. I would just want 3. I see 2. Oh. So there is 1 over there. We start with that one. Yeah, very short, please. Make it quick, short. Yeah. Please proceed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's noted. Next. Please, where's the mic? Can we have the microphone quickly, please?
Attacked, but if we look up to now, nothing was done. Following up with what could we have done or to do the whole story, but you find out after all that maybe was recorded, you find the stories wasn't there. The second thing is the disinformation and misinformation of what is going around the world at the moment. Because you see, most of the Kenyans and part of maybe our neighboring countries will believe the information that is not true. And you see social media has taken over the media. Because people believe a lot with what is going on social media, and they believe in it more than what the media houses are there. So you'll find out that it is affecting the community in different way. So my question is, we have discussed and there are laws maybe to tackle all that is going around. How is the social media being controlled so that the common mananchi does not believe what is going around? Is there any law that is controlling the social media so that we don't give people wrong information? Because we'll find out that the information that is coming even from the ground, from the villages, it's going viral very fast than even what you are hearing. So, sijui kama kuna mikakati yote ambayo pengine the stakeholders wameweka mahali kuweza kuhakikisha kwamba wana control the social media, because sasa wengi wa wananchi wanaamini kwa social media kuliko information ambayo wanahabari ama vituo vyetu vya habari vinapatiana. Asante.
I'll pick the last one because we are still here. Please allow this to be the last one for this session. Right, very quickly over there, please. Sorry? It's okay. Gentlemen over there, please stay. Come ask the questions. Go ahead. Go ahead, please. And sorry for that.
My name is David. Member of the board, I have a few issues I want to mention. One, when 2018, after the 2018 meeting on Symposium of this kind, and you have raised issues of what has not happened.
Thank you. 2018, in the context setting by Mule Musau, he gave us the points that were taken. That is the title of the report. And just wondering if in 2018, what was raised has not been implemented to date. How sure are we that what we are doing today is going to see the light of day? What are we going to do with the institutions that prove or exhibit impunity? The Supreme Court ruling of 2017 on presidential elections, nothing has happened to some of the issues. We've done 2022. I am sure there are other orders that the court gave. I don't know what is going to happen, and yet, third gender. And this morning you heard from the chair of JLAC. I'm just wondering what is the next step, because that comment from the chair of JLAC, in my view, actually was not a good one for NG.
Have lost that even as we went to the elections 2022, there were still many in parliament. And is this beneficial or commission, and who benefits when we don't legislate what is supposed to be legislated? Lastly, but not your proposal of keeping protagonists away from each other, I believe that will be taking us back to the ages of Propers. It is important that we tolerate each other, and we understand that elections is not about war. We expect a winner and a loser. Therefore, let us community, let us learn to live with each other, whichever side we divide. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the good question. Please allow me to just call back the panelists for quick reaction to that. And as I said, please, I seek your indulgence because we are still here and we are running against time. So please bear with me. Very quickly, just quick short reactions.
Thank you. I had a question that was directed about monitors and human rights defenders, whereby we've had cases of extrajudicial killings. And we know that human rights monitors during these elections, they play such a very big role because the reports that we are able to publish at the end of a monitoring exercise, they are basically your hard work. And we know that there are laws of the land that protects you. Even as a human right, you are a Kenyan first. You deserve to be treated. In the case you're on the wrong, you deserve to be charged, just like anyone else, without necessarily being killed or banished. I know we've had incidences whereby the former CS called out CSOs in Nakuru also, when he said, if we come for him, he will be able to deal with us, CSOs. So we are left wondering, where should we run to? But the beauty is that we have a constitution, we have laws that protect us, and no wonder when human rights monitors, we've had incidences during these elections whereby some of them were threatened, intimidated, and they had to go into hiding. And as IMLU, where we sit at, we had three monitors who had to go into hiding for a long time. And we are like, you know what, this is not the solution. Where do you find a solution? Of course, the matter is being looked at, and it is in the courts. You're never alone in this monitoring work. You're never alone. Just find a person or an organization. There's defenders, there's IMLUs and other CSOs to work with you. When it comes to police, there was an incident, there was a question about police excesses and use of force. Normally, we advocate for, there's the plan, that in the case of using force, it should be proportionate, legal, and someone should be held accountable. In the case of a bullet, this bullet should come from a certain person, and this person should be held accountable. And in the case of exercising force, always the forces are supposed to exercise neutrality. They're not dealing with, they're dealing with wananchi, they're dealing with people. They should exercise neutrality. It's unfortunate that the NPS is not here to defend themselves or talk on their behalf. All what we can say as IMLU, our work is to oversight. We look at their behaviors. So that is why we are able to talk about them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll just look at two issues. One is, of course, violence against human rights defenders and monitors. The Office of the Registrar has deployed 350 monitors during these elections across the country, one in every constituency and one in every county, as well as some of them in even at the ward levels. And I want to report that this time round, if we compare to 2017, there has been less violence. And that is because the Office of the Registrar has imposed high standards of political behavior through the political party's code of conduct. We have seen great improvement in the political party activities and even political party candidates, and that is why we have seen less incidents. We have also engaged the youth through a program we call Demobilizing Youth from Electoral Conflict, and including the university students, the border operators, and that has also reduced violence, which would have triggered police to go overboard. So, but the bottom line is that, as my colleague has said, we have laws that protect each individual in this country. Whether you are a human rights defender or monitor, you still have right to your security and right to protection, and those laws are still there. If anybody violates that law, then the law will take its course in terms of taking action against them, even if it means those who are even charged with protecting you. That's why we have seen prosecution of police officers across the country happening now. In terms of the other issue is social media. Social media, again, is an area where we have seen increased use in terms of disinformation and misinformation. But I want to confirm that we have been undertaking the close media monitoring, and the Media Council has also played a very important role in terms of monitoring the media, the mainstream one, and other government agencies have also been closely monitoring the social media, and there have been instances of verified social media accounts closed and some of the people prosecuted before the general election. So that has been happening, but of course that's a new area where we need to think about in future how we are going to monitor in terms of also coming up with some regulatory framework. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I won't repeat what the team has said, but just a quick one. There was a question about is there a law protecting human rights defenders? Of course, there is. When you look at the Constitution, Article 29, that's part of our rights and fundamental freedoms. It protects all of us, so we don't need another legislation. It is in the Constitution, but like so many other things, the implementation is a problem. I know if you read the Constitution, there's a joke that, I mean, ours is very nice. You know, if a police arrests you, of course, like in the movies, they have to identify themselves, like, yeah, I'm Corporal XYZ, this is my number. You have the right, you know, to remain silent. You know, the ones you see in the movie. They are in our Constitution, but they're not applied. So what am I saying is that we have laws, the issue is the implementation. So just know that they're there. And then something else is that there was a question about law controlling social media. Of course, under the Communication Authority of Kenya, we have the Kenya Information and Communication Amendment Bill. It has all the regulations which guide how people are supposed to behave in the social media. But remember, the issue of freedom of speech is also a very dicey thing. So what you're saying is their laws, their frameworks. So that's something which is there. And then there's a question about the report which we usually develop as observers in Kenya. So there's one for points taken. And here the question is, there are so many recommendations. How sure are we that they have not been implemented? Here we're going to come up with another raft of recommendations. Will they be implemented? So the issue of governance and democracy is a long journey. We have to keep on fighting. We'll be giving recommendations. They might not be taken on board, and that's why we have you as civil society to keep the right holders on check, so that we can always ask them, why are you not doing this? So you remember when Dr. Judy from NGEC, actually it's surprising, she gave a list of some of the legislation which have not been implemented. Remember, if you remember the Nyachai Commission on, Commission on Integration, Constitution, CAC. It's a commission in charge of implementing the Constitution. It had 5 years. When you look at the Constitution, it has outlined all the legislations which are supposed to have been put in place, and all of them were supposed to be undertaken within a period of 5 years. Some were to be undertaken within 6 months, others 2 years, others 5 years. So now these are things which are in the Constitution. There is a budget for it. There are people responsible, but they've not been undertaken. So you can imagine that's one aspect. And then we have recommendations from civil society organizations, which are most of the time viewed as antagonistic. So it may not be easy for views to be taken, but we'll keep on pushing. For example, we've always been saying elections is a cycle. Do not give resources at the the 1 year to elections. But it has not been happening. So basically that's it. And then the last bit about what I was saying about my brother about having two different places. I agree with you. It's just let me give you an example. Like in US, if you've been watching the elections, US elections, you'll see Biden in a corner there, and I don't know if it was Trump in another corner. So we're not saying we're going back to Stone Age, but we're just saying it's something worth considering, all right? And it's something which we should put out there for people to discuss. When we look at peace issues, you ask yourself, what can you do to enhance cohesion and integrity? If you find an easier way, you go for it. But I hear you, and it's something we'll keep on discussing. Thank you very much.
Okay, they deserve a better applause for the two presenters, Mule and Jackie, and our discussants. And with that, I think we will transition to the next session, and I will just ask Abu to remain behind and Bwana Abdullahi to remain behind as we transition to the next session. This one will be very quickly because after that, we want to get to another very, very interesting session. We will quickly look at technology. But here, let's quickly have Dr. Oliver Waindi from Uraia. Please come to the podium. Oliver. Yes, we will have a key, they will give us the key presentation, the lead presentation, Oliver, and our colleague from Kiktanet, John Walubengo. After Oliver, you'll come, so please also come to the podium. And I will start with our brother, Dr. Oliver, because we are running a bit late.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Bon après-midi. Thank you very much, everybody, for this opportunity. I consider myself very lucky to stand before you to share our reflection as an institution over the last 2 months, no, how many months, no, 4 months really after the elections, what is it that we've learned from 2022 election going forward? It has been very momentous really as we prepare ourselves for the onslaught to the 2027 election. We ask ourselves as an institution which is primed to offer civic education around the country, what is it that we did? How do we learn from it going forward? And what were the gaps? And clearly, like my friend Abu has just said, that we have this cyclic 5-year thing that we need to put into focus when we design and deliver our civic education programs. But for some reason, there is always a lull for the first 4 years, and then we've got this huge gush of resources, activities, and agency in the last 1 year. And we have to ask ourselves, why last-minute rush? I think it's just a historical thing, and of course, there is little we can do about it. We try to work with our partners to try and bring sense that the 5 years matter, the 4 years matter, just like the 5th year. And this has not been well understood, at least in terms of resourcing, but it's something that we're working on. I don't know really have to define for you what voter education is and what electoral education is, but basically we try to prepare our citizenry to partake of this joyous journey of trying to elect our leaders every 5 years and to ask for them to be responsible citizens, both in exercising what we do consider as their responsibilities as well as their rights to this country. And so that has been basically our bread and butter for 4 years. And then come the 5th year, we try to redesign our delivery modes as well as the curriculum itself to reflect the urgency of the matter towards the end. Now, you saw, for example, this year we had those 2 pieces of legislation that came in January, and therefore this had to force us to rethink our mode, our audiences, and our curriculum in delivering for people to understand what is the dispensation on election and what are their roles, what are their entry points, as well as what are their active role insofar as that dispensation is concerned. Well, it did go as it went, and it's as has already been indicated here, we had extremely very a strong apathy from the ground. And this is not really unique to Kenya. I mean, we've seen over these past few months elections in Angola, in Thailand, in France, in Britain, even in the US just recently. We have extremely very progressive, low turnout. And this even affects much more the young people. And therefore, we have to ask ourselves, what do we have to do as a sector? And I ask that myself as a person and as an institution, what do we have to do going forward so that a lot more of our citizens can really engage meaningfully in the process that we consider extremely important. Now, that then informs the way we look at our the delivery of our civic education program going forward. We have to ask ourselves, what do we have to do different from what we've done before? And this then informs 3 major events that have taken place after the elections were confirmed by the Supreme Court. We did hold a symposium of similar nature about 29th of August, which gave us some key issues that emerged from the election. Of course, we followed it up a couple of weeks ago, and today this one as well. We are trying to pick up what are the key issues that we need to drive home in the agenda of civic education in this country. That will help us to be much more contextual and relevant in our delivery of civic education, because we realize that, as Raila has already said, Wednesday they are going to consult, quote unquote, and that is really the beginning of the 2027 electoral campaign. Forget about what the president said, that they will be escorted with police, for as long as they want. Basically, we're looking at a very charged 2027. 2022 is behind us, regardless of what we say. Now, with the developments in IBC, we ask ourselves as Uraia, and therefore as a sector, what is it that we are seeing going forward? And I picked up a number of things that we are going to focus on going forward, and we are going to make sure that the first year is as important as the 4th year and the 5th year, so that come 2027, God willing, when we'll still be there, we are able to have a thread that that went through from year 1 to year 2, in a very plateau-like progression. As it is right now, we have very low uptake of our programs, and then it picks up January of the electoral year. And we have to ask ourselves why. We did have a meeting with the UNDP and other partners, and we were telling them the 5th year is really the culmination of what has happened over the past 4 years. So if you neglect 4 years, the consequence of that really manifests itself in the 5th year. And so it's important for us to put importance from the word go. So 2022, we begin it already. 2023, we escalate it, 24, 25, 20, until 2027 August. So that we have this constant reminder of our young people, especially, that 52 million Kenyans in this country have a duty to participate in this process, which you consider extremely important, much more important for them, because we cannot complain forever. The power of the ballot is so strong, and everybody needs to know that. And that's really our mantra. So the issues that have come up, from our interaction with a lot of you in various, is that we need to work on the, to really re-emphasize the election cycle. Post-election activities can include, we have to audit the 2022 election properly, which we are doing right now. The advocacy reforms at IBC, obviously it's going to be a challenge. I'm waiting for those who know better than me to explain to me how it's going to work now, especially now with the by-elections going to happen in the next few days. We've got great voter apathy in Kenya. It's even worse among the young people, 62, 63%. Okay, it's a global average, but we want to do much better. We want to get to the 2022, 2002 kind of thing, 2007 kind of thing, that we can hit over 70%. Political mobilization of citizens, that is really our core mandate, and we ask all of us really to participate. Those are the areas that we want to design our curriculum going forward. We are going to challenge our staff in the office. We've already done that, so we just want to get a session where we can completely redefine our curriculum in civic education. There is also the shrinking civic space that we must be aware of. How do we take this government in accepting the CSOs? Well, it may be still early in the day, but we have to be cognizant of that going forward. NGO voice is not unified and not heard. We really need much more unity. We need much more togetherness in the way we approach these issues, because we are only as strong as the oneness with which we approach issues. When we are divided, it becomes easier for for CSOs to be seen, not to be as effective as it used to be in the 90s. That is our agenda. How do we go back to that? So we are not competing. We are all complementing one another in our various areas of strengths. We still also are going to design our program to indicate the role of political parties in democracy. We have got the struggling economy, so we've all seen this. How do we make sure that our civic education reflects that? You've seen it's going to get worse. You know, the inflation is at 9.2, 9.3%, and we have to ask ourselves, how does that impact on our civic education, and how does it impact on the voter apathy? Because nobody would go to vote when they're not eaten. So these are the realities that we want to move forward with. Lastly, and I'm sure my colleague will be handling that, the issue of technology. What is technology?
As you have seen in the last two Supreme Court rulings, ICT was really central to the rulings. And we as Uraia, and I believe a lot of us in this sector, we have to take that into cognizance. You know, the reality on the ground is how do we design our programs to reflect the centrality of ICT when it comes to issues election going forward. So those are going to be very critical for us. You know, I need to conclude by saying that we want, as an organization and as your partner going forward, that we are able to sustain this momentum from year 1 to year 5, so that we're not going to see this, you know, slaloming and cascading kind of pressure put on civic education. We want from day 1,
1st of January 2023, we are able to hit high pitch note and go the same way until year 5 on that fateful or wonderful day of August, the Tuesday, August 2027, when we'll be electing our next president. So I want to stop at that and ask you guys to help us believe that we don't have to rush civic education towards the end, and it should be something that is sustained. It's good for the whole country, it's good for our citizenry, it's good for the generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Oliver, for that. My brother Joshua, please join me. Come up at the podium, please. And Joseph from Mushahidi, I know you're around here. Please also come and sit at the in front here as a discussant. Joshua, join us when you get here. But allow me now to call Banawa Lubengo to also be very brief.
It's okay. But I had a presentation. I don't know if... Okay, I'm told to talk. Let me go to my backup. Sorry, IT guys sometimes get too technical. My name is John Walubengo. If you'll allow me to talk from my slides. I am a trustee at KICTANET, Kenya ICT Action Network. This is a civil society organization that catalyzes ICT reforms. So whenever there are ICT policy issues, regulations, laws, you'll find KICTANET is at the heart of it. Just let me get my slides fired up first. Okay, yeah. So I've already introduced KICTANET. I'm here on behalf of the CEO, Grace Githaiga, who was not able to join, but I'll do the presentation. We had been asked to talk about technology in elections, and there are actually 3 components or three interventions that ICT has played in elections since 2013. The first one is called BVR, biometric voter registration. This is where IEBC or the election body would capture our biometrics, our digital prints, before elections, so that they create a single register of potential voters. The second part is, the slides came up. Okay, that's the summary slide. We have BVR, EVID, RTS. That's EVID stands for Electronic Voter Identification. RTS stands for Results Transmission Systems. I'll also talk about the logs. During the petition, there was issues about logs. It's important to have an idea of what that is. A bit on risks of technology and some experiences at the Supreme Court. I had the opportunity to be one of the amicus curiae. So I'll share something on that and summarize with what's available in the future. If we go to the next slide on BVR, I think I'd already explained what it is. We're able to capture our biometrics in preparation for elections. Next slide is just a graphical presentation of how IEBC does that. The next slide, if we can go back to the one on biometric. It's important to understand what it is the digital aspects are trying to cure. Why is IEBC collecting your fingerprints? And according to Kriegler's report, the 2007, elections had so much irregularities, people didn't know who is a valid voter and who is a ghost voter. So biometric voter registration tries to cure the problem of ghost voters. So if you don't have biometrics, you should typically not be allowed to vote. Of course, there are some instances where your fingerprints may not work. Electronic voter ID, it works together with the BVR. It's actually the same gadget you registered to vote or to be on the voter register. On election day, it's the same gadget that will identify you. Okay, so that we cure the problem of voter impersonation, duplicate voting. If you try to vote twice, the electronic voter identification kit will flag that, wait a minute, you are here in the morning, why are you trying to come back in the afternoon? The same kit can also cure the problem of ballot stuffing. This is where you have the elections have come to an end, and then people are adding more ballots into the box. The kit is able to record and say the number of votes cast as per the counting when compared to what was digitally recorded during the day is not the same. So the difference is most likely because somebody has added ballots. The next slide is just the digital diagram of this equipment. The last component is results transmission. This was really the main discussion in the petition. If you recall, the issue of whether the results transmitted were changed. Were they in JPEG? Were they in PDF? Did the so-called Camargo change the figures there, amongst others? So the results transmission system is very critical in terms of firing up or transmitting the image at the polling station. So once the results have been counted, the election clerks are supposed to transmit immediately an advanced copy to IBC servers, so that in the event there's changes between what was transmitted and what was earlier, in the event there's change, when the returning officer comes to bomb us with their hard copy, it will be compared to the digital copy. If there are any differences, then there's a case to answer. So this is how it looks like graphically. You'll forgive me, I'm moving pretty fast because of time. If we can go to Slide 9, yes, this one, results transmission. You can see on the the tablet, that's what the election officials use to get an image and then transmit to the central server, the back office at IEBC. Something on the logs, the next slide. A log is simply an automatic recording of what has transpired. So like when you go into the voting station, as soon as they take your biometrics, the computer records that at 9:30 a.m. Walubengo came and we identified him. In the evening, when the election officials transmit, the computer is also able to record at what point, what time exactly did they transmit. The logs allow you to do an audit trail to review what transpired. Technology is not without failure or risks. Each of these gadgets can fail. And in 2013, they failed spectacularly. But in 2017, IEBC improved. In 2022, it even became better. The failure rates were less, and that's a good thing. Also, each failure, each risk can be addressed by a digital backup. So in case there's no mobile signal, IEBC could rely on satellite signal. So there are all sorts of interventions that are available to protect the electronic aspects of this election. Slide 14, is this complicated? I hope not. Now, you've learned that there are three main aspects: VVR, EVID, and results transmission. Going forward, we're thinking, taking this further, we could do actual voting digitally. So you walk into a polling station, you see the face of your candidate, you tap on them, and the system records your vote. Something as I conclude on some experiences during the Supreme Court session, the judges, of course, had a lot of affidavits competing, of course, from the petitioner and the people IEBC defending themselves. So as legal minds, they probably needed a little bit of guidance, and we were happy to be part of the IT technical amicus curiae to provide a third perspective. And I must actually report here that some of the affidavits were withdrawn after the IT technical team submitted their amicus curiae reports. Before that, the so-called logs that were not really properly prepared, the petitioner had not withdrawn them, despite the defendants having objected to their validity. But one thing I note is that the Supreme Court didn't allow the Friends of Court to observe the scrutiny. Only the petitioners and the defendants were allowed. And we feel that that was a big letdown, especially because there could have been things we could have observed to inform the future elections. Finally, the petitioner was asking for some, orders, but we felt they forgot to ask for the key item, which is a review of the Kimskit logs. The petitioner should have actually asked the court to give them access to the Kimskit logs, which is able to give you the diary, the digital diary of events at each polling station. That could have given us some very nice insights. The last point is future elections. We could vote on our mobile phones. I mean, we send M-Pesa to our friends, our relatives, every minute with a lot of trust. In future, we should be able to vote from the comfort of our sitting room using mobile phones. I know there are issues of integrity on that, but technology keeps improving. There's something called blockchain system that can provide the level of integrity that is expected in our constitution. There's there's been talk of, can we just go back to the manual system, because the digital system seems to present new risks every year, and my submission is that that will be a disaster, because even though the digital systems have risks, the least they do to us is give us an audit trail. Manual systems would still have those risks, but there is no mechanism to work backwards and say what really transpired. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bwana Walubengo, and I think we'll now proceed to have reactions from our discussants, and we'll do this very quickly because we are late on time. Joshua is also here, he's part of the panel of discussants who will join. But let me start from, yes, I start with you as we go like this.
Okay. Thank you. I think these are two most important aspects of elections: civic education and technology. And for civic education is just to increase awareness among citizens on their political and civil rights with the aim of improving or increasing their participation in the democratic processes in this country. Many efforts have been put by all stakeholders, and there is need for us to see the efficacy of the efforts by all stakeholders, including state and non-state actors. One of the key institutions charged with voter education, as one of its key mandates, is IBC, which is our partner, and they have done well in terms of voter education. But there's more to that. Voter education just involves the process of voter registration and why people need to register. But I think civic education goes much more or beyond the voter education. Citizens have to understand their rights, their responsibilities, and they have to be able to appreciate why they have to stand up and participate in not only the electoral and political process, but even in the policy-making processes of this country, so that they have a say in how they are governed. So this is critical, and I want to applaud efforts by the civil society in terms of civic education. And we need to ask ourselves at this point in time, reflect and see why what we've been undertaking has not been working very well, because numbers don't lie, and the voter turnout itself shows that from 2017 to 2022, the graph is going down. So it's high time we ask ourselves why and see how to do things differently. In terms of technology, it's an enabler, and even from government side, we have adapted technology to improve efficiency and effectiveness of our programs and activities. And we need to interrogate what we need to improve on in terms of employing technology and how to take advantage of this technology without also overlooking the risks involved. Because we know as we employ this technology, there are also risks associated with it. There are risks regarding regulatory framework. Some of the technologies that we are using, has it been well anchored in law, and can it be challenged? There are also other risks regarding manipulation and interferences. So all these are things that we want to hear from you, your experiences, so that at the end of the day, the duty bearers are able to gain from your experiences and improve on how to deploy technology and make maximum use of it to improve our processes. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My name is Joseph from Ushahidi. I'm here on behalf of our ED, Angela Lungati. She just got a meeting that she had to attend. And so I'll just speak a little bit around Ushahidi. We are a global claim technology company whose goal is to empower communities to thrive as a result of access to data and technology. We develop integrated tools and services to enable people to generate solutions and mobilize communities for good, empowering users to rapidly and purposefully gather, analyze, respond, and act on data and information. Our flagship project or product is the Ushahidi platform, which is an open source crowdsourcing tool. And so just a background of what we are discussing. The extent to which an election advances democratic order depends in larger part on the existing electoral systems, its nature, and it's acceptable by the stakeholders in the electoral process. The application of information and communication technologies in election is getting increased consideration. Technology in the electoral process is seen as a remedy for numerous electoral challenges, ranging from establishment of an accurate and reliable voter register, streamlined voting, and result tally for quicker transmission of electoral results. However, the electoral exercise in Kenya through technology has confirmed that the application of ICT comes with some jeopardies. For instance, failure of equipment, which my friend from KickNet has just discussed about, the disputed integrity of machines, and even exposure to hacking, as it was alleged in 2017 disputed general elections, resulting to continuous incredible elections conduct in Kenya. So was it effective? Was technology effective in the Kenya 2022 general elections? I think my friend has alluded to the voter registration process, just given us a background of what goes in there. I'll just go straight to probably what we did as Ushahidi. So with the increased availability of mobile devices, Ushahidi pioneered a timely solution that uses crowdsourcing technology to raise underrepresented community voices and set the standard for data collection. As in the Kenya elections over the past decade, this technology is what was purpose-tailored for Uchaguzi 2022. Like in prior general elections held in 2010, 2013, and twice in 2017, Ushahidi reconvened Uchaguzi in 2022 with a customized version of Ushahidi platform that offered 19 civil society partners a technology tool to coordinate election situation room activity. What did we do? Ordinary Kenyan citizens used familiar channels like WhatsApp, SMS, USSD, social media to report on election events and share their sentiments. Uchaguzi collected 93,236 reports, out of which 12,000 were published on Uchaguzi. We have a link that you can have a see. The reports were analyzed and verified by 91 digital response volunteers from different parts of the country. What methodology did we use? Number one, we do crowd. That is tapping into the intelligence of the crowd. We do verification, the process which involves Uchaguzi evaluates information and determines the credibility of it. And then response. We forward the verified information to organizations and individuals who can intervene. I'll finish by saying this. Digital platforms like Ushahidi are like fertile land. They represent the potential for gender participation, improved decision-making, and trust. The data and information we gather, share via this platform, are like having good seeds. Seeds that hold promise to flourish and yield good produce if appropriately handled. But without farmers to till your fertile land, then good seeds are useless. The farm will not flourish without people and hard work getting into that land. Usually ordinary citizens better understand their issues they are dealing with. They know the context, they know the tensions. To have effective democratic societies, we need solutions that tap into the wisdom of these local people. Wisdom that is often ignored because we feel that they are too simple or not educated in the conventional sense. In this information age, ordinary citizens should no longer be considered passive recipients of information, but active instead. Thank you.
Thank you, Ushahidi and Uraia and Kiktanet. Yeah, thank you. So, because of time, I'll just limit my interventions. But so maybe the first thing, a quick one. If someone is maybe just a quick one. Constitution na Kiswahili inaitwaje? Tuendelee. Government. Okay. Devolution. National government.
Serikali ya kitaifa.
Semeni tena.
Serikali ya kitaifa.
So ni serikali kuu au ni serikali ya kitaifa?
Kitaifa.
Okay. So don't forget, this is creme de la creme ya civil society, and kuna mushkila hapo. Ni serikali ya kitaifa. Okay. Once you say serikali kuu, it changes the whole mix. Because sasa tunaenda back to the central government. So where am I going with this? Basically, since I want to talk about civic education, this is what you're saying, is that in the 2000s, okay, no, wacha tuanze tu vizuri. Have you ever asked yourself why some people are so passionate about the governance of the country? Like even let's look at Wangari Maathai the late. I like to use this example. Did she have to really go to Uhuru Park atole rasta zake? Is that normal? Allowing him to mwenda kiasi? What is your take? What drives them? And the Kina Orengos and Kina, all the people who've been fighting for good governance. All right? So there's something about them. I'm sure you know many things, but one thing is that they have information and education, and they know that whatever is happening is not correct. So of course, civic education is supposed to produce such citizens. In Kenya, we had an opportunity, I mean, when multi-party and when the space was opened, there was a lot of civic education targeting adults. So what I'm going with this is this. I want to tell Uraia and the other players, we also need to consider putting civic education in now our young generation, all right? We have taken 20 years to help our adults to vote wisely, to engage. Maybe we can even ask Philip from Zalendo. You guys usually go to parliament. Sikunywa chai, you have work there. I don't know how many Kenyans go to the public gallery kuskiza. Philip, what wengi? Okay, how many Kenyans go to, I mean, easy public participation, the town hall forums and everything. So what you're saying is, as civil society and moving forward, we need now to put more effort. We know in the next 5 years, around 4 million young people are going to be new-time voters. Effort also in schools. For me, I'll bank on that. For the adults, of course, tunaweza jaribu other means, pole, but it's getting more and more expensive. So I'm happy that Ushahidi and Kiknet here. The use of technology should also be enhanced so that it's cheaper and easier. So what we're saying is we want to use 21st century skills to provide civic education so that we can have Kenyans. So even if you don't have 100% people telling you how to vote, but let's say Kenyans can engage effectively, I think still it should be a win-win situation, because you can have 100% turnout and still, maybe still, we get the wrong leadership. So why do we give the wrong leadership? Maybe it's the content which they get. So it's something we need to consider. And then something else, I think as civil society we need to do our best to work hand in hand with the electoral management bodies when they're developing their curriculum, when they're rolling out their civic and voter education. Remember, for IBC, it's only one aspect of voter education, and which is done, just in affairs. So that's something else which we need to get into. And then maybe just finally, when we do proper civic and voter education, what happens is people will be able to agree to disagree. I wonder if in Kenya we've reached that level, that tumeshindwa au tumeshinda, and you still have that magnanimity. Oh, I don't know what it's called, but you still have that utu, so that you don't rub it over me, that umenishinda. All right, so these are some of the things we need to target as we move ahead. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, colleagues. I want to provoke our minds. And I'll ask you a question, and it's either yes or no. Are spoiled ballot papers counted in an election, or they are not? Yes? Yes, it is spoiled, isn't it? So they are not counted. Okay. Now, do rejected ballot papers find itself in the ballot box? They do, isn't it? Okay. Then does the presiding officer deal and determine the rejected disputed ballot papers? Okay. Now, no, that is the mirror of how informed the middle class is in our country. And as we discuss this subject of voter education, Dr. Oliver, it's not about even that person who is in the rural place. You know, these people who access armchairs and computers, those are the target group for voter education, because those people are up country are relying on these people for knowledge, because they'll say, na hii inakuanga haje. And we saw in the Supreme Court in 2017, when a judge asked one of the advocates a question around voter education, if you remember that. And that person was defeated, isn't it? And it's on record on public TV. Article 88.4G of our Constitution gives the mandate Electoral Commission to conduct voter education. That is their preserve. It's given by the Supreme Law. As civil society, faith-based organizations, and private sector, we complement. But the characteristic of the voter education that has happened in this country, and I say this as an observer, is a last minute. It is a popcorn approach voter education. But I think from this symposium, we need to have a candid discussion on how our voter education can adopt an electoral cycle approach voter education, so that it starts, even these electoral reforms that we are discussing. Can the person who is out there understand what is being discussed in Parliament around reforming our electoral process moving forward to 2027? Now, issues around funding on voter education, because always that is the excuse. Even IBC has given us that the casualty department in terms of allocation of resources by the exchequer in terms of budget allocation is the voter education program. So we will be asking ourselves, is this the program that is most likely to be dedicated to external funders as opposed to ownership? And we want to challenge ourselves candidly to that. If ASLA fund now can be allocated resources for educating the public on how to access this fund, why not elections? And I think it's high time we move this subject into even allocation of funding from the exchequer into our voter education programs. Then secondly, I think lifestyles now have changed. I think technology has been discussed here. how can we utilize the proliferation of technology to enable people who own smartphones to access digitized voter education services. And that does not need to wait until 2026 or 2027. That program can start now. And then civil society and faith-based organizations and the private sector. I think if we nail it or we get it correctly that our elections are done freely, fairly, and everybody is happy, or even let's say near 99%, we will have an environment that we are going to discharge our duties. But the competition for resources to do this kind of work is what is killing the sector. I think it's high time we coordinated ourselves and strengthened our capacity at the national level and at the county level to conduct a voter education that is meaningful. And I want to ask if we will have a further discussion around this subject. We move away from the ticking the boxes voter education approach where we have complementary political voter education, which is values-based, Article 10 of the Constitution, so that we change it completely. And here, when we say how to vote, that is voter education. Why do you vote? Because the mindset has to ask, why am I even voting? Because these things we are talking about, voter apathy, I think these are things now that are becoming even monotonous. Because I have gone to conferences and people asking, oh, there's voter apathy, people might not even submit themselves to vote in the next elections, or people are deregistering themselves from the voters register. It's like we are so desperate. I mean, but is that the country that we want to live in? And even ask yourselves, how do we register? Or how do we protect the vote? And what is the impact of your vote? If you remember the quote that I gave in the morning, that the people who determine elections are the people who present themselves to vote, because they are the ones who will be counted. Then the last bit is, I think it is high time we attach elections to livelihood. This is about the well-being of the country. This discussion around UNGA not getting lowered in terms of prices as a result of the campaign messages, because we must also hold to account these people who used messages and they ascended to political power. Because it doesn't stop that after elections, let's move on with our lives. Because we've seen in social media where people are saying, it is high time now we moved on. See elections to Limaliza. Who says we finished or we ended the electoral process? What is being now discussed, even this Hustler Fund, this is part of the outcome of the elections, isn't it? Those ones who are dealing with around corruption, audits and whatever, budget allocation and all that, I think that is even work. Because this can be also messy. And it has to be attached to why did you vote this way, and this is the outcome. And then the last bit is that there are resources that are lying out there, not being utilized, and I want to cite 3 of them. There is a curriculum of voter education by the IEBC. It is there. But how do we simplify that and we have as many Kenyans access, even digitized snippets that people can be able to understand, let's say the voting environment, the polling station, and all sorts, including the voters register. And then there is a resource book by the the Office of the Register of Political Parties, Political Education Resource Book. I think it was supported by partners such as the NDI. And they launched that book. When you look at it, it is a book that doesn't need to be in our shelves. It is a book that needs to be out there among the publics. And I think we can come out and complement those efforts such as done by such institutions. Then the last bit, I think, Uraiya, you made a contribution to this and the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. I don't know of other partners on the civic education curriculum. I think there's a curriculum which exists there. So those are resource materials that need to be out there. And I think we can pick that in the electoral cycle to inform a better voter education as we move towards 2027. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joshua, and the other discussants and the key presenters for this. Let's clap for them again, please. They deserve better. Okay, sorry, again, I will ask for your indulgence. We are running a bit late. We are at 1:40 now. We have a session that we've skipped because of time, but we'll come back to that after lunch. So for now, we'll break for lunch. And then we agree. We are now at 1:40. We have to come back here by 2:30, exactly 2:30, because of what we have still hanging ahead of us before we close the day, right? Yes, and for that reason, we'll also skip the plenary for now. We'll see how to deal with it after lunch. So lunch is served at Tembo Restaurant, and I would like us to just proceed right there now. But as we do that, the leaders here in front here, together with the presenters and moderators, please just stay for 1 minute. There's just something I need to share with you as we break for lunch. Lunch is served at Tembo Restaurant, so please let us proceed there. We come back here at 2:30 exactly, right? The presenters, the keynote presenters,